Good morning. I'm Katherine Ross, and I'm here with Jim Cramer. We're both joining you via Skype this morning in our effort to do social distancing. Now,
Right.
Jim, I want to ask you what's top of mind this morning because this market is kind of wild today.
Yeah. I mean, what top of mind for me and what everybody has to focus on is Apple. And the reason we have to focus on it is because there was an upgrade today. And what we're trying to figure out is will upgrades work when you cut numbers? All right. So Deutsche Bank upgrades and they cut numbers and the stock is up. Now, this is different from Nike, which actually they raise numbers. So if you raise numbers in this environment, you get a real winner. And Nike's up almost 10%. They had a fantastic quarter last night. But how about if you cut numbers and you upgrade? This is the battleground, and we don't know. Apple's only up $1. Earlier, it was up a lot more. So let's watch that because we need to see companies' stocks go up because they're down so far that even after numbers are cut, they go higher. And that's what we're dealing with there.
Yesterday, we saw a lot of back and forth between Democrats and Republicans. We heard a lot of football references, actually. We heard that Nancy Pelosi said that they're in the red zone. Chuck Schumer said that they're at the 2 yard line. So, Jim, should investors stay in the red zone until we get an official announcement of what this package entails?
Well, look, I think that this is very much in this. We're now on the course for 2008. And 2008 is the government provides something which we're all thrilled about because we thought it wasn't going to be provided, but it only answers one point of the equation. Now, TARP helped the banks, but there were so many other companies besides the banks that were going under that it didn't matter that much. Here, we're helping both Main Street and we're helping some big business. But one thing we're not providing is the customer, and the customer is scared. Is scared not because they're afraid of losing their job or not having the money, but because they want to practice. They're very torn. Like you have a hero like Dr. Fauci, and you listen to Dr. Fauci. What you do is you go out very waringly and very sparingly, and you stay away from people. You separate. You make sure that younger people aren't with older people because that's what happened in Milan. It's happening in Madrid. And those are things that do not make you feel like going out for a slice. And I think that that's the big problem. We have to make it so that younger people, and I say younger people, people who are 50 to say 10, feel like, you know what, I can go to Starbucks and I'm not going to get sick and I can see friends and I can go to a game. And until that happens, all you're doing is tiding people over. Can that happen? Absolutely, because it's happening in China and in Taiwan. But we're late. We're getting mixed signals now. We don't know who's right. We don't know about an April 12th opening because there's really nothing that makes me feel that we're going to be ready by then because Dr. Fauci hasn't given me the green light. When Dr. Fauci says it's okay for me to go out and have dinner, I will reopen my restaurant, the one that I personally run, which is Bar San Miguel. I will be delighted to buy people a Corona without making even any jokes. And we'll be back to business. But Dr. Fauci has to give me the all clear, not the president, because the president's not a medical guy. Now, I have the president's unbelievable ratings. They're soaring. People in the country like the way he's handling. I'm just looking at the Gallup poll. But there's a man who stands behind him. You can't see him. It's Dr. Fauci. And since Dr. Fauci was the person who stopped AIDS after seeing every patient die for 8 straight years, this man has seen death. This man knows what's dangerous. When he says, you know what, guys, it's okay, then it's okay with me. And I understand that, look, if I were the president, I'd be pushing to say, listen, we got to get this thing open right now. Let's quarantine the elderly. Let's test the younger people. Let them get back to work. I mean, so I don't begrudge the president for coming up with an April 12th, but you have to do the ventilator and you have to do the testing in order to make it so the April 12th works. And we're not there yet simply because I don't know any nation would be there yet other than a communist country that can control its people in an authoritarian way. So, yeah, I'm not as disparaging the president as most. I'm just confused about what to do.
Speaking of confusion, you were tweeting this morning that a lot of investors seem to be confused. You called them morons who came in to buy when the Dow was up 500 this morning. So, Jim, what would you say to these investors who didn't heed your warning?
Well, I mean, first of all, You haven't, the directional nature of the future is wrong. So look, for all I know, there's some really smart people on the other side of the trade. I don't want to discourage them, but I just think that the market is thin enough. You don't need to test things at 415 and say, "Oh wow, because Italy's coming back and the market's up a little, I'm going to go buy our futures," or because oil looks like it's stabilizing, which doesn't. I mean, these are people that are just fools. Now, I learned that lesson in 1989 when Japan was peaking. I used to buy Tokyo Electron and then short Tokyo Railroad. I mean, yeah, I used to play that game. I had a lot of energy, still a lot of energy, but I used to not sleep. I used to pick days not to sleep and trade furiously overnight. But I always knew what I was doing. I had always done a lot of work. I mean, these people are trading because they're like I indicated they should go read Dostoevsky's Gambler. They are trying to hit double zero, and double zero is statistically very difficult to hit. I'd rather have them playing cards, going for shoot the moon. But what is absolutely wrong is to think that you can make money in the regular market by trading in the overnight. You're going to be
I think
wrong.
that's sound advice.
I mean, look, I have the benefit of looking at and trying to have done. This is probably the most important. What do I really have the benefit of from age? It just has to do with how many times I've tried something, and I've realized that the definition of insanity is indeed that you keep thinking that it's going to change if you do the same thing over and over again. So what I've learned is that don't do it. And I want to impart upon people not to do it. You don't know what you're doing, and that's no fun.
Jim, there's a human response to panic, to uncertainty, and that sometimes is honestly to just revert to what you know. So I want to take a second and I want to ask two questions that are educational based, because I think that we sometimes see investors go back to old habits just because they don't know what to do in this market. So my first question for you based on this is it worth buying a stock on an upgrade at this point?
That's a fantastic question, because what I like to look at is how much is the stock down, how much of the earnings been cut, and how much can it be in this new world a secular grower versus a cyclical grower. So, for instance, Boeing I regard as being a secular grower because of air traffic. The numbers have come down a great deal, but it's not going out of business. But then I have to say, okay, what's the customer demand? And the customer demand is just not there. You have to check off all the boxes. You have to have new world, you have to have secular growth, you have to have customer demand, and you have to have balance sheet. And if you don't have all of those, then you're going to end up coming up short. I mean, we had the unbelievable CEO of Ulta on today, Mary Dillon. Unbelievable. And she checks off all the boxes. Now she's doing the last box by .com, but her .com is unbelievable. And when I see someone that has all the box checked, then I'm ready to go and I want to buy.
Let's flip that. Let's talk about stocks that are getting downgrades. Should you be selling those at this point?
Depends if I think the downgrade is fanciful, or I mean, I don't think that anyone who downgrades right now, Royal Caribbean, I don't think that person's a mistake. I think that's a good call, because I think that there is a secular, boy, it's even worse. You have a cyclical and a secular decline when it comes to Royal Caribbean. Cyclical and secular, meaning that the economy's rolling over. You don't take a cruise, even though they are represented bargain, but you don't because you're trying to keep your job. And secular, meaning that look, no offense, I happen to love all the people who run the cruises. I was booked for a cruise in February, couldn't wait. But now I'm worried. And when I proposed to the government that they use the cruise ships as floating hospitals, they said, we can't, the air's too big. So, I mean, cyclical and secular, not so good. With a dividend that I don't think we can maintain, with foreign tax regime, really what I would regard as being suboptimal.
Now, in case you missed it, Jim did have a great column over on Real Money this morning, so please go check that out over on realmoney.com. And I want to say thank you for joining us, Jim.
About Boeing, and frankly, what you try to figure out is, when do you buy after a big rally? And I think it's helpful for people who are trying to figure out when. I'm looking at on Twitter about what people are saying, and a lot of people want to say, well, Jim, is this the level? Is this the level? Is this the level? And I just want to say to every one of them, but I don't want to be mean. No, that was the level yesterday. I mean, it's okay. People do not get that sometimes you didn't take your chance. And so you can't create a new chance on something that you didn't take. It's all right. I mean, how many times in life do we say, you know what, I wish I had done X? Well, that's how you should feel about stocks. I wish I had done that. Don't say, I'm going to do it anyway. It doesn't work like that.
Sound advice as always. All right, so every day, guys, Jim
took place. It was on sale. The sale took place. You can go to the store. You can say, I want the sale price. They're going to say no. There you go. Sale took place.
All right, it's really as simple as that. All right, so Jim and I are taking your questions every day. We're trying to answer as many as possible. So please tweet at us at TheStreet and at by Catherine Ross. I am watching, I'm waiting, and I am going to be monitoring all day long. And we are now heading over to our Action Alerts Plus Daily Rundown show over on actionalertsplus.com. Please come join us over there. Jim and I will see you tomorrow.